Hi there, it's Sarah here, the Able Diabetic. I'm here to talk to you about how in a type 1 diabetic life, every day is different. And I'm going to take us back to Father's Day this year and have a look at what happened in my life that particular day. Obviously very much about Jim, the father of our children, but also an unusual one because that day my son went away for a week away with his school. And so actually at the crack of dawn I had to get up and get him across London to a train station so that he could go and do his stuff. And that meant that my daughter and Jim went out for a breakfast together, and I came home and had my own breakfast on my own, very nice breakfast, and then spent the day doing some other stuff. So this is a kind of insight into how that day went, and as you can see, it did involve cake. So let's take a look at this chart. As you can see, the day is divided into 4 sections, and the first one covers from midnight until mid-morning. It took that long to get down from a very, very high peak overnight, which was driven by eating very late, being out and getting home very late as well. At the point in time that I went to bed, I didn't know that I would go that high overnight. On waking at 6 a.m, it was really, really important that I sorted out that problem. And I took quite a lot of insulin, about 6 units over and above what I usually would, just to drive those blood sugars down, which I ultimately did over a number of a few hours. Moving into section 2 of the chart, it starts with a hypo. I went too far with the corrective action beforehand and it just went too low. So that got corrected in section 2. I took some sweets and got myself into a pretty happy area actually at about 9, which was a good place to be. So that was section 2. Section 3 is when, as a family, we went for a walk. And when I exercise, I typically would take a snack before I go, a biscuit, a small amount of carbs. That didn't stop me from falling into a hypo zone again at the end of the walk. So, not great. It's very difficult to manage the exercise piece, and it's not unusual for me to have a hypo, even after taking precautions. So that's a pretty typical picture, actually. Section 4 shows the final part of the day, which was spent at home, a Sunday evening, very quiet time. We had a meal, and then we just, watched some TV. You can see the impact of the meal in the peak, going up to above 11. That's fine. Actually, the meal included some of that fantastic chocolate cake that my daughter had made for Father's Day, and so I'm pretty happy that I peaked in that way and to that level. That's really completely acceptable in my book. So I think a negative take of this particular day would be that started really badly. I did something really wrong to be high overnight. And then I had 2 hypos, and that's clearly not, ideal diabetic behaviour. And then, later in the day, I went above the green zone again, a bit too high after my evening meal. My take, I have to say, is a lot more positive than that. This was a day that had quite a lot of pressure in it, an early start, starting with that, that bad profile, which I didn't know I had because I was asleep, and managing to get kind of back into a good zone and managing to do some exercise. Yes, I had a hypo, but still, activity and exercise, and a bit of celebration in it as well, marking Father's Day. I think it's really important for us to have the perspective that the life comes first, and we do our best to get a good diabetic picture. It is never, perfect. It's really hard to get perfect, but I think I'm not going to judge myself too harshly for the fact that picture isn't absolutely ideal, because overall it wasn't too bad, and I managed to kind of bring myself back into an okay zone. And I think it is really important that we don't bash ourselves too hard for what is a really challenging task when life is going on as well. I'm Sarah, I'm the Able Diabetic. I hope these videos are useful. There's plenty more on YouTube. Check me out on my website, www.theablediabetic.com, and thanks very much for watching.